It's 2 a.m. and you wake up to screaming. You go to your window and look out, and the house across the street is on fire. There's a child screaming from the second-story window, and without thinking about it, you run outside in your bare feet and sprint towards the fire. You have no training, no gear, no plan. You feel the heat from the fire hit your face from 30 feet away, and every part of you is screaming to stop, yet you keep going. Why? Hold that thought. This video is about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's action in doing the right thing in the face of fear, risk, or opposition. That distinction matters because the courageous person and the coward feel the same fear. The difference is what they do next. Now, I'm an executive coach, and this channel is for business leaders. And I'm not here to teach you how to run into burning buildings, and I hope that you never have to. But after coaching over 100 business leaders in the past 12 months alone, courage is one of the 4 bottlenecks that keep individuals and businesses stuck at their current level. And if you want 10x growth, transformational growth, you'll have to do things that you've never done before and become someone that you've never been before. And that takes tremendous courage. Here's what most people don't realize though about courage. It's not a personality trait. It's not something that you're just innately born with. It has a recipe with ingredients. And if you understand the recipe, you can build courage on purpose in yourself and in the people you lead. What I'm giving you in this video is the recipe for courage. Courage has 2 ingredients, confidence and conviction. Let's start with confidence. Confidence is the belief of I can. And it's the part of courage that most people focus on, and for a good reason. In most situations, it is enough to get you moving. But I bet you didn't know that there are actually 2 types of confidence. And that matters because most people focus on the first kind and totally overlook the second. The first type of confidence is what I call done it before confidence. This is the strongest form of confidence, and it comes from experience, evidence, and repetition. Think about the first time that you ever had to speak in front of a room, or maybe the first time that you ever did a sales call. For most people, that is a terrifying moment. Now, think about the 50th time. Yeah, still uncomfortable maybe, but you move into action so much easier. Not because there's zero fear, but because you've done it enough times to know that you can do it again. Done it before confidence is what most people think of and what most people look for when they need confidence. But what if you haven't done it before? What if you don't have the track record and the results and the reps? This is where courage crumbles for most people and they think, oh man, I just can't do it. Which is why understanding the second type of confidence is so valuable. The second type of confidence is what I call FIO confidence, figure it out. I've never done it before, but I think I can figure it out. Figure it out confidence is based on a deeper belief in your ability to learn, adapt, and problem solve in real time. In business, this is arguably the most valuable type of confidence because the higher you go as a leader, as a founder, as someone building anything new, the less often your past experiences will match the challenges in front of you. If you think about it, every single type of experience and evidence that you have for the I've done it confidence always started as I can figure it out. You didn't know how to walk, now you do. You figured it out. You didn't know how to read, now you do. You figured it out. Everything you're good at now, there was a point in time where you didn't know how to do it. This is really interesting to me. You can also leverage the stronger version of confidence, the I've done it before confidence, when it comes to creating the figure it out confidence. Here's what that looks like. I've never done this before, and I'm not sure that I can figure it out, but I figured out other things in the past that were just as hard, just as challenging, just as complicated at the time. Boom. Now the confidence meter is up and you're moving forward. But here's the thing about confidence, both types of confidence. It has a ceiling. Confidence is rational and logical. Fear, though, is usually not. When the situation is terrifying enough, uncertain enough, risky enough, logic isn't enough to move you into action. And sometimes there are things you need to do where the evidence actually says you probably can't. And confidence has no answer for that, but you still need courage. So what do you do? Thankfully, there are 2 ingredients to courage, remember? The second ingredient is so powerful that it works even when the confidence meter is empty. Let's go back to that fire, but this time, you're not the neighbor, you're the firefighter who just pulled up in the engine. Your heart rate is elevated, fire is always dangerous, and fear is probably present, but you move anyway because you've trained for this moment 1,000 times. That is the I've done it before confidence at work. But let's say that things change. The fire has moved faster than expected, or the layout of the building is different, or the staircase that you planned on using is compromised. So you adapt, you reroute, you make calls in real time. That is figure it out confidence. Between those 2 types of confidence, you're able to enter the building, save a life, and do your job. That is courage built on confidence. Hundreds of reps, thousands of hours of training, a team, gear, systems, etc. Let's go back to you as the neighbor though, with none of those things to give you confidence. What does courage look like there? You're the neighbor. You're standing outside in the street, barefoot, no gear, no training, no crew. In terms of confidence, both types, you should not be able to go into that building. You've never done this before, and there's no evidence saying that you can figure this out. What drives you forward is not the belief that you even can save the child, but because you heard that scream and something inside you decided that not trying is not an option. That is conviction. Confidence is the belief I can. Conviction is the belief of I must. Conviction is a fundamentally different force than confidence, and it's 10 times more powerful. That's why you can charge straight into an incredibly dangerous or uncertain situation without a shred of confidence if the conviction, the why, is strong enough. So where does that come from? You often hear people say things like, find your why, but that's just not always very helpful. So I want to make this much more practical for you in this next section. The deepest root of conviction is identity. We act based on who we believe ourselves to be. Or if we don't, then it feels like self-betrayal and a damage to our own integrity. For the firefighter, it's I'm a firefighter. This is what I do. I don't leave people in the building. For a founder, that might look like I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I do. I will figure it out. I have to. I remember the early days of starting my business, living off of our savings and hearing no over and over again on sales calls and thinking, I don't know if this is going to work or how this is going to work out, but it feels like what I'm meant to do. It feels like who I am, and I keep trying. Simply because of that. Spoiler alert, it worked out. Love and loyalty. It's the mother that lifts the vehicle off of her child with a superhuman strength. You know, you hear that story? Love converts fear into fuel. When the object of your love is more important to you than your own safety, your own comfort, or your own survival. In a business context, this could show up when leaders genuinely love and care for their own people. I know a founder who stopped paying himself and even drained his personal savings account during a massive recession so that he didn't have to lay anyone off. And honestly, it turned out to be a very strategic win, and they ended up dominating the market on the other side of the downturn. That honestly wasn't what drove him. It was just a love for his people, not wanting them to have to lose their jobs and not be able to provide for their families. Right and wrong is a massive root of conviction. Maybe there's something so clearly wrong that not acting becomes moral guilt. You see this, for example, with whistleblowers or the employee who reports safety violations knowing that it might cost them their job. They're not necessarily confident that it will go well. They're convicted that staying silent is worse than the consequences. Honestly, not all conviction comes from something noble. Sometimes the situation is just so bad enough, so painful, so unsustainable that conviction becomes, I've got to get out of here. I can't take this anymore. I've got to do something about this. It's the employee who leaves a toxic job or the leader who fires the toxic employee. Honestly, I've talked to so many founders who started their companies not because they had some kind of grand vision, but simply because they couldn't stand one more day building someone else's dream. And I often say that desperate doesn't make good decisions. And while that's true, it's still a powerful motivator and one of the most underrated sources of courage. This is the weight of knowing that others are depending on you. And it's a little bit different than love. It's more like duty. Sometimes it's just, I'm the only one in the position to do something, and if I don't, no one else will. It's the person in the middle of the meeting who says the thing that everyone is thinking because they realize that no one else is going to say it. Funny enough, I've actually been in that exact situation and even gotten myself fired for it. And the funny part about that is that conviction of saying the uncomfortable truth that no one else is willing to say is the exact thing that my executive clients hire me for now as a coach. And I'll just add this here, that if you are a CEO or an executive, you have to have people in your life who are willing to tell you the brutal truth and to challenge your ideas. And if you don't have someone in your world doing that for you intentionally and consistently, there's a link in the description to apply for a life-changing coaching conversation with me, and that's exactly what we'll do together. Conviction creates the tipping point for courage when the risk of doing nothing becomes greater than the risk of taking action. It's not that fear shrinks, it's that something on the other side of the scale becomes way heavier. Courage is one of the 4 building blocks for creating massive growth, but it's actually not the first. Clarity, creativity, courage, consistency. These are the 4 building blocks, but they also become the 4 bottlenecks that hold you back from everything you want. Clarity, though, is always the starting point for breakthroughs and turning points in your business. So if you want to learn how to make decisions with greater clarity in your business, watch this next video where I break down the top 10 decision-making frameworks and principles that I've learned from fighter pilots, Navy SEALs, and billionaires. As always, I'm Cody. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.